have all of her wardrobe.
All of it?
All of it from the beginning, yeah. I have it in archive, yeah. It's the one thing that I've had in my contract for probably 30 plus years.
Welcome to a very special edition of the SheerLuxe Vodcast. It's not normal that I would do an intro for you sat here in our studio and then interview our guests somewhere else, but this isn't your normal interview. We had the opportunity to go to Paris for the European press junket for, I can't even believe I'm saying this, the cast of And Just Like That, which of course means the cast of Sex and the City too. If you know SheerLuxe, if you know me, you'll know I am the most enormous fan of the original Sex and the City and of course And Just Like That. And of Sarah Jessica Parker in particular. So what you're about to hear or see if you're watching our VOD is a series of conversations I had with Michael Patrick King, the show's showrunner and director and writer on Sex and the City, along with cast members Nicole Ari Parker, Kristin Davis and Sarah Jessica Parker, talking all things fashion, Aiden, big, New York, and basically everything there is to look forward to in the coming series of And Just Like That. I'm absolutely pumped. I hope you enjoy this conversation with all of them. And the new series of And Just Like That launches on Sky today. So enjoy.
Welcome, first of all, to the SheerLuxe Vodcast.
Thank you. I was happy to be SheerLuxe. I've always felt Luxe. Now I'm SheerLuxe.
There you go. It's high praise. Season 3. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
What is the evolution of the characters, our cast in season 3? Where do we find them?
I think you picked the right word. Evolution is the word. I've been writing Sex and the City and then Just Like That for 27 years, and what keeps me interested, and I think what might keep the viewers interested, is how these individuals evolve over the years, how we change based on what life gives us, and how we grow and grow up and grow old and young at the same time. And I love the fact that this season you get to see a little bit more of the evolution. Everyone's further along their way. You get to know the newer characters more. But you get to see Carrie really evolve into grown-up Carrie. Carrie deciding what she needs from life versus what she thought she wanted. And that's all tied up in the Carrie Aiden arc, which is very complicated.
How much, when you're thinking about that trajectory, are you going back to the original show and thinking, would this Carrie do that? And is this consistent with those life decisions she made then, or do you look at it quite in isolation?
No, it is very connected. The DNA of Sex and the City breeds right into And Just Like That. Whenever I'm writing Carrie, I always think about where Carrie's been. And my one rule as a writer on this show is never repeat. So if you know where she's been, you know where you can't go, so then you have to find a new way to go. And it's just a great way of continuing the character's evolution. And because it's Sarah Jessica Parker and Cynthia Nixon and Kristin Davis who have been playing these characters for 27 years, they can go anywhere. So it's just imagination. And I think a lot about what the audience would like to see, or sometimes what they would not like to see.
Do you ever do that kind of with a heavy heart? Do you make those decisions, those controversial decisions, thinking, oh, this is fun, I'm kind of gonna provoke a conversation? Or are you ever like, oh, I really don't want to do this, but I know it'll make great TV?
Every story has a possibility to make trouble. And the fun thing about fiction is that it's invented trouble and you can solve it in the next episode or the next couple of episodes. But I love that there's an active back and forth. I imagine with the other writers, we all sit in a room and imagine they're not gonna like this, they're gonna like that. We're doing it for you. We're not doing it just as an exercise in writing, we're doing it so that it'll be received, and how it will be received is really sometimes a shock to us, sometimes exactly what we expected.
I mean, there's a history of being provocative with the show, whether it's in the character arc or kind of the themes, right? Like, that's what it's about.
I mean, we started in Just Like That with the most provocative act of all. I killed Mr. Big. I broke...
I will never forgive you for that.
Yeah.
I can't lie.
I understand. Life is tough. Fiction can be worse. The reality is I broke the romantic fantasy, and that gave me space to create a little bit more of a reality for Carrie and a journey. So yeah, you always think about breaking stuff to make it new again. and hopefully you put it back together. Sometimes it's like with an outfit that Carrie will put together. Sometimes you think it doesn't go together and it can't possibly work, and then all of a sudden you go, well, I can't live without it.
I'm glad you say you don't repeat anything, because there's a scene in the very first episode of this series which felt to me like a kind of hark back to what happens in the first episode with the recital, the first episode of the first
Yes.
season, right? And they're performing on stage and Lily's there and I'm like, oh my God, is this the foreshadowing of another death?
A lot of people blame poor Lily for the death of Mr. Big just because she happened to be playing a piano at the time. Anytime Lily's around a theater, we can't help but imagine the audience thinks, oh no, who's
Correct.
going to die?
Yes.
I think one death is enough for a while.
Good. I'm so thrilled to hear
In
it.
a romantic fantasy,
Yeah.
I think one big death is enough to last
Okay.
for a couple of seasons.
I'll take that as a guarantee that we're all right for a little bit longer.
You're okay for
Good.
right now.
What are the key themes that you wanted to explore with the characters for this season? You know, you said it's Carrie's growing up, it's her grown up phase. What does that mean?
I think what being a grown-up means is looking at reality and deciding how you want to behave, not letting it tell you how to behave. This season's about relationships. It's about old relationships, your friends. It's about new relationships, new men coming into their lives. And it's about the most important relationship, I think, that is always underneath all of the characters at Sex and the City, which is the relationship you have with yourself. And as Carrie said at the end of Sex and the City, the most significant relationship of all is the one you have with yourself. And if you find somebody else who loves the love you love, then that's fabulous.
I get goosebumps just thinking about that episode, and like you've got the love and yeah. Good vibes.
Yeah.
I know this is kind of more speaking about season 2, but we see a lot more of Aiden again, obviously in season 3. What, you know, you spoke about Big, you spoke about harking back to that, you know, the original series. What motivated that decision to make Aiden the kind of core love interest yet again in this new take of Sex and the City?
I mean, the reason Aiden is back is, aside from the fact that John Corbett is a very magical actor and Sarah Jessica and he have great chemistry together and they're wonderful to work with, I know the energy that's coming from the audience. And Carrie had 2 loves, Mr. Big and Aiden. And I can meet someone and I know you're a Mr. Big and I can see who's an Aiden. And so the idea of that there's another love that's still potent that comes back. And then our job as writers and creators of the show was to figure out how it comes back and what the new challenges are. And once we realized that Aiden could come back as a family man, and you know how deeply that character loves, you can just imagine how much he loves his children. So it creates quite a dilemma. I think now the split is not Mr. Big or Aiden, it's single Carrie or Carrie Aiden. And I think people have a very strong feeling about that.
And I guess also maybe it's like a kind of catharsis for those who felt that she should have always been with Aiden in the first place.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know, maybe this is the time in her life where she's most ready for that relationship.
Yeah, maybe. And the other interesting thing about bringing Aiden back again regarding Carrie is a lot of people think Carrie was responsible for both of those breakups. So they're
She was.
waiting for her to hurt him again. So that is something we went into the writing room going, well, okay, now what's going to happen?
Okay.
Did she hurt him those 2 times? Is she going to hurt him again?
Wow, is that up for debate? Did she hurt him those 2 times?
Oh, you think it's clear that she is?
Absolutely, clearly, no question.
Well, humans make mistakes.
Oh, that's no judgment. I carry Stan, but it was her fault.
Well, I get it was hurtful for him.
Yeah.
Breakups are terrible. Breakups are terrible.
are.
That's why it's better to kill them.
just write them out. That'll do. We've seen quite a few great cameos from the original series in the last couple of seasons of And Just Like That. Have we got any more surprise ones, or anyone that you'd love to bring back who you haven't been able to get back for a cameo yet?
Yes, Kyle MacLachlan
Oh, yeah,
would
of
be really
course,
fun
yeah.
to see again as Charlotte's ex,
Yeah.
Trey, because he's just such a great character and Kyle is such an amazing actor. There's a lot of characters. I like to bring back characters that people aren't expecting. You know, that you just really have to be a deep dive Sex and the City fan to go, is that the same bank officer who turned Carrie down for a loan for her apartment that may be turning Seema down for a loan? It is.
Love that.
So it's fun things like that. And then the other characters that come back occasionally are the city. You know, bringing back different aspects of the city and showing different parts of the city and showing new parts of the city.
That's actually such a good point, because obviously the original show, there was so, you know, you were responsible for highlighting kind of the coolest new places and always
Yeah.
you always had your finger on the pulse, I suppose, always
Yeah.
setting the trends when it came to New York. How much is that still an important part of the show?
I think the beginning of the second episode where Carrie is meeting Lisette for drinks, and the opening shot is her crossing cobblestone streets in those heels, in that blue dress, with that Carrie hair, that is a reference to the old Sex and the City. That is the cobblestones that she's walked many times. And I like that it's in the show to remind people that even though we evolve and grow and change, that essential DNA of who Carrie is always going to be there. And sometimes she looks exactly like Carrie used to look, and that's kind of a magic trick and fun.
Do you think that the idea to move her apartment, to have her living somewhere new, was also kind of controversial?
Yes.
Different?
Yes. I think people had an attachment to Carrie's old apartment because so much happened there. And it does feel a little bit like the inside of a really familiar purse. They liked how it felt when she went in there. It felt a little bit like a hug. It felt familiar. She cried there. The girls were there. She moved out of there twice and back in. So one of the things we broke was keeping her there. That's a big swing. We were like, it's time to change that. It's time to bring her to a new place. And the new apartment, the Gramercy apartment, is so magical to me. I feel it's like Carrie's running around in a big, empty, white Gothic dollhouse. It's such a great image, an empty house and her waiting to fill it with a life that she thinks may be coming or may not be coming. It's beautiful, it's expansive. It shows about how expansive her sort of feelings about the world is. You know, and the other thing we brought back that was kind of familiar, the opposite of getting rid of her apartment, we introduced something that was familiar again, which is the voiceover. I love hearing Carrie speak again, but it's a new way because she's not just writing her columns as she used to. I, Carrie Bradshaw, had this date. It felt like this. This is because of the dangerous emotional turf, talking about her relationship with Aiden, that she won't even discuss with her girlfriends. She retreats into her writing or liberates herself into her writing and writes a fiction, writes a novel, and not in the first person for the first time. So the other thing I love about it is the sound of Sarah Jessica's voice again. It's so comforting, and it makes you feel a little bit like Sex and the City, even though she's not really saying anything similar to what she said in Sex and the City.
So true. You touched on Trey. If you could, I don't want to say go back and redo anything because it all kind of, you know, it maps out for a reason. But if there was an alternative universe where somebody could end up with somebody different, what relationship did you love from any of the characters that you thought, shame in another life we would have explored that?
I am happy to say that every relationship that went on its way was perfectly timed.
Yeah,
and the
very
one
different.
relationship that we did bring back was Aiden.
The other two ladies, we haven't spoken about, the other two original cast members, we've talked a lot about Carrie's evolution. Can you give us a very quick update on where we find Miranda and Charlotte?
Miranda in season 3 has finally gotten to her feet after the very bumpy road we put her on by design in season 1 and 2. We really wanted Miranda to struggle to become this new self that she felt she needed to be. So in season 3, she is fully standing up, fully filled with light, out of the dark, and sarcastic and funny and open for love. And Charlotte, over the last 2 seasons of And Just Like That, Charlotte's been there for everybody. She's been really the grounded, supportive one. So I wanted, like I always do, what haven't they done? I wanted to give Charlotte something where she needed to be supported. So in this season, she's a little bit more vulnerable, a little bit more scared. And that's fun.
Fun and also scary.
Scary, but it's fiction,
It's
so
fiction.
it's lovely.
There we go. Michael, thank you so much.
So
We
much.
appreciate it. Thank you. It was so
SheerLuxe.
lovely to meet you. SheerLuxe. Wait, am I your favourite Charlotte yet?
Yes. Yes.
Season 3, congratulations.
Thank you.
Where do we find Charlotte?
We find Charlotte, with Harry and her children and just trying to roll with that situation and be the best mom she can be. And she's at work and she's trying to do more and compete with her younger co-stars, I almost said co-workers. And that's harder than she expects it to be because she obviously has a life and responsibilities. And then things go along and she gets a bit of a curveball thrown her way, which, as it happens in life, and has to struggle with something new about in the middle of the season. And also Harry asked her to keep a secret, which is really, really hard. So Charlotte has some challenges, definitely.
You've played Charlotte for, I think, is it 27 years? Is
It's
that right?
27 or 28.
years.
Yeah, I lose track.
It's a long time. At what point in your life have you kind of diverged the most and kind of related the most to the character, kind of, or in that time frame?
Well, I mean, we're very different, but we're also the same, obviously. But we're different in terms of what her goals are in life and what my goals were in life. And then I guess the biggest similarity is that I have 2 kids and she has 2 kids. I'm a single mom. She's not a single mom. I'm a single mom trying to work, right? So sometimes I'm trying to juggle those things, obviously very challenging. It's hard to be objective, to tell you the truth. It's a long time. It's a long time. So it's hard to say. I mean, we were both single at the same time. I guess that was similar.
That counts.
Right.
Do you think that so much of your own personality is now a part of her?
I mean, luckily, we have had, first we had Darren, and then Michael came first season, and then we've had many wonderful writers along the way, but also Michael was always, we're together very much so, which is the joy of television in a lot of ways, and all of our female writers that we've had through the years are always with us too, so we're very close, and that means that they know us really well and can write to our strengths. So you're trying to do justice to what they've written to Charlotte and live up to their ideals of what you can do, and I do think it's impossible to separate really after a while, which was the origin of the thing. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I listened to your podcast, your own podcast with Mike when you had Michael as a guest, and you talked about how at the beginning they weren't quite sure and it was all a bit up in the air. And I mean, it's impossible to imagine anybody else with that role now.
Thank you.
You weren't that you weren't that confident in the synergy, right?
I had a whole. Well, it wasn't that they ever wanted anyone else to play Charlotte. It was that they weren't sure that Charlotte was needed for the show.
Got you.
So
Nice.
at one point, after I had been cast and done the pilot, they wanted to send me, I was a series regular, and then at one point they wanted to kind of demote me to a recurring, which would have meant I would have come every couple episodes, right? Not every
Crazy.
single episode, right? So I really felt, like, oh no, I'm not good enough, or I didn't do it well enough, or I didn't seem like a Manhattan cool girl, or whatever it was. I had a lot of insecurities about it, but I also didn't talk to anyone about it. Like, all the girls didn't know about this till I talked about it on the podcast. They were like, what?
Oh, what, they didn't even know until right now? Wow.
I know.
That's crazy.
Because I never really understood it. So for me, it was kind of like a weird secret I kept where just the whole first season, I was just kind of like really trying to prove myself and look for clues of like what was going on and who didn't think that I was right. You know what I'm trying to,
Yeah.
I'm trying to convince them, but I could never get to the bottom of it, right? And now when I talked to Darren Star, I ran into him at a party. I'm trying to get him on the podcast. He won't come yet. I
mean,
don't know why. It's
Darren.
crazy, right?
Yeah.
But I saw him at a party and I talked to him and he was like, I don't know what you're talking about, which was also really interesting. I was like, wait, Darren doesn't know what I'm talking about? So I do think in retrospect, now that I have tried to investigate it as fully as I can, that it was a budget thing. Because
Okay.
I do remember that our pilot cost a lot. I don't know if this is what you want to talk about.
No, keep going. I love it.
Our pilot cost like $2.54 million, which in
a lot.
1997
Wow.
was a lot, right? Because we were shooting in Manhattan.
Yeah, right.
We were on the Metropolitan Museum of Art stairs.
okay.
You know, there were so many locations that cost money. And I think that I had a decent contract. It was not a network level contract, but it was a decent 7-year long contract, right? So if you were to demote me and pay me $5,000 an episode, which is what they wanted me to do, that's the paperwork they brought me that I pretended to lose
So good.
many
So
times.
good, yeah.
That would have saved them a lot of money.
Yeah.
And then when Michael came and was writing with Darren, and Michael said to me, I did look at your character and think, I don't know what to write for her because I was not based on a real person. Charlotte was not a real person that they could follow that real person and write along that real person, right? They had to really create her. And he did think, I don't know her. I don't know how to write for her. Then when I have Jenny Bix on, who was our next writer to come, she grew up on the Upper East Side. And she knew.
Duh, she knows Charlotte,
Thank
yeah.
goodness,
Yeah.
right? So she was really able to inform them, like, this is what this means. This is what this is like. This is who this woman is. So, like, the pieces started coming together over time. And thank goodness they had not successfully demoted me. And it all worked out.
I love that you pretended to lose the paperwork, and that's how you kept this
Oh,
job.
it was so stressful too, because I'm a
insane.
good girl. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I don't
I'm
think
with
I've
you.
ever done anything like that, but
Yeah.
that's what my lawyer told me to do, and that's what I did.
It's crazy that, you know, the idea that they didn't know what to do with you, because everybody talks about, you know, are you a Charlotte? Are you a Miranda? And the whole point, I suppose, of what Charlotte ended up being was somebody almost the most relatable, because she was kind of really normal. I don't want to use the word normal,
Yeah,
but
no, I know what
classic
you're
and by the
saying,
book.
sure.
But then over the course of, you know, even through to today, we see this evolution where she's not perfect and she is flawed, and she has to really kind of come undone to come back together, right?
Definitely,
Like,
yes.
how do you feel about how, when you look back? Are you proud of her? Kind of, what do you
Yes.
reflect on? And what
I
do you think about
agree
her
with
journey?
everything you're saying, absolutely. And I think that Michael really saw that he needed to have her pursue what she wanted, get what she thinks she wanted, and have it not work out. And I knew that that was the plan for a while. And then it kind of continued on longer than I wished. So I remember there's a certain point where I was like, oh my God, please give her what she wants at some point. And they always did have the vision that it was going to be someone who wasn't what she thought it would be, but was actually who she needed, right? Which is who Harry is and still is, thank goodness. And I think her big challenge is always to give herself a break and not be so perfectionistic with herself and everyone around her. And the kids help that, you know, teaching her flexibility and understanding and expansion, you know, of her worldview. And I love all of that.
I asked Michael if there were any kind of side characters that he wanted to bring back. We've seen so many great cameos so far in And Just Like That, and he said that Trey is someone we haven't seen. So, like,
We're on the road to bringing Trey back.
Okay, so you want this?
I don't know how. Of
Yeah.
course I want this. I ran into Kyle as well.
Love, yeah.
And we had an idea. And then it didn't quite work out. And I think it was right. Like sometimes you mull something over, but it's not quite cooked. You know, you have to kind of take some time. And so we did try. And I remember being so excited. And then it didn't work out. And then I was sad that it didn't work out. But then I ran into Kyle. And Kyle said, oh, I just want to keep the specialness. You know, Kyle has his own vision. So I feel like between Kyle, myself, and Michael, we're going to come to some way for it to happen
Okay.
that it's going to be satisfying.
okay, I just really hope that if he comes back, it's not with a family, because that's, you know.
Would
like,
that be upsetting?
Yeah, I think so, because
But
because
don't
that
you
was
think that's kind of what happens?
well, yeah, and I was just having a go again at Michael about several storylines over the past 27 years, and he was like, but it's real life, you know, it's
It
got to
is.
reflect, like you said, it's not
Yeah.
perfection, but I don't know, for former Charlotte, I really hope that he just stayed a bachelor and was happy like that, you know? And that it wasn't her.
I mean, that's interesting. I don't know. I'm not sure. Like between their vision and my vision, it's all really interesting. And we all have different visions, which is also interesting. I do think for Charlotte, I mean, that would be painful for sure, because obviously he couldn't give that to her and she desperately wanted it. But what she got was better for her, right?
Totally, of course.
And maybe sometimes you need that closure to really close that door in terms of, I mean, I'm not sure that door's open for her, really.
No, I
But
totally
I also
think
feel
not.
like they do have unfinished business, because what was written that you guys didn't see because we didn't film it was that they have never spoken since their divorce. They
Interesting.
have never spoken in any way, which is kind of very un-Charlotte.
Yeah, I suppose I would kind of assume that.
You would?
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
Because what comes to mind? Sorry, we're kind of going
It's
deep
okay.
into this.
No,
now.
I love
but
it.
when I think about in the first film when Charlotte was prepping for Big, and you know, I curse the day you were born. All of
Yes.
that. Like, I feel like she can have a grudge in her.
Oh, most
Right?
definitely. Don't cross Charlotte.
Yeah.
But I feel like Trey is not a grudge. Trey is just
Yes.
like a pain, you know, like a sadness.
Yeah, that's fair.
But to me, it's unusual that she didn't somehow try to process it, you know, like over time.
So true.
I mean, it's sad. I feel sad, and like she needs to do some work there, you
that's
know?
true.
Like it's almost like she kept him, you know, in a
True.
bubble. Do you know what I'm saying? Like a fantasy
True.
bubble of like what didn't work out. And I don't know if that's healthy.
True.
It would be healthy in a way to see him with the family, or maybe just to see him at all. I don't know.
Let's see.
But-
He ended as the White Knight, right? He gave her the
He
apartment and off
did.
he sailed. So
That's
there you go.
true, but
Yeah.
the White Knight, but not.
Not-
You know what I'm
no,
saying?
but
Because he
not.
was still leaving, and he said he wanted to play golf. Do you remember that?
I
See, I will
remember,
never
yeah.
forget that.
Yeah.
We will have to maybe just hit him with the golf club.
Yeah. Michael said no more deaths, but maybe he can die.
Yeah, no,
sorry, no.
no more deaths. No, no, no.
No more
We'll
deaths.
just hit him once.
Okay,
He
fine,
doesn't have
just-
to die.
Quick revenge. and
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
it,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
We're out of time. I could do this all
that
day,
was
but thank
really
you so
fun.
much.
You're
Thank you. So
great.
lovely to meet you.
You deserve the name Charlotte.
No. Welcome back. And just like that, here we go.
Yeah.
Season 3. Where do we find Carrie?
We find Carrie thinking she understands this sabbatical that she has agreed to with Aiden, in a new home that she thought was going to be more populated, starting a new project, writing a book of fiction, which she's never done before, writing about a woman at the turn of the last century, being surprised by events that she could not have imagined being confronted with.
The fiction thing is interesting. Where how did that come about, and kind of what was your view on it? It's her first foray into fiction.
Michael Patrick said that I said to him while we were shooting season 2 that I missed the narration, and I believe that if he said that I said that. But what's curious to me is that narration's a very it's a lonely job to do. You're usually alone in a booth, but I liked what it did. I liked how it supported story or it supported inner life. And I think the audience also felt it was just like a wee connection that took them along a little bit. And it allowed us to tell stories that we were never going to film, most especially about Carrie and her feelings about somebody or persons. So Michael had the idea to have Carrie use it as the writings of this new book, which I think is really clever because though she keeps talking about the woman, I'm not entirely convinced it isn't Carrie. So it does a nice job, I think.
What about her relationships with her friends? We see everybody back again, obviously. How have they evolved in this season?
They evolve the way friendships do when you have the time to take care of them. And it was very likely that these 3 women would not be estranged in some way, and only made richer by Nicole and Sarita. All the lives are different. People have children of different ages and jobs and personal experiences that take time away from friendships. But there's a kind of general understanding of the necessity for one another.
I've spoken to some of your co-stars, to Michael, about recurring characters and people coming back. I mean, obviously, we've got Aiden back again, another series. How did you feel about, there's obviously so much kind of law and debate over Big Aiden, the relationships. How did you feel about revisiting that relationship
Great.
decades later?
Oh, excited. I love Corbett. He's such a wonderful actor to work with. He's so easy on camera, he has such a special quality. And I knew Michael would make it really interesting and surprising, and he did, and we got to be together for a really long time.
Did you feel like there had been unfinished business, in terms of Carrie's narrative and kind of life journey? Did it feel right to you to come back to that?
If we hadn't done it, that too would have felt right. If Michael's going to dip into something, he's going to give you a good reason why. So we could have left it alone post Big's death and Carrie resurfacing from that and carried on and perhaps dated other people or not. But Michael felt there was something to say and a story that was compelling.
There's been a lot of excitement, again, amongst your co-stars about the possibility of a Trey return. Kristin's pioneering.
Kristin's, yes,
yeah, she
very,
is beating
yes,
that drum.
yes.
Who else are there any other, we've seen some amazing cameos in And Just Like That from the original show, but who would you love to see? Anybody else that you'd love to come back?
Oh my gosh, I can't
I'm
think
putting you
of
on the
them
spot.
now.
I mean, you've had...
It's so hard.
Or maybe of the last 2 seasons, who are the people that you've been so, seeing Bitsy von Mufflin come back. Iconic. I
Yeah,
love that.
she's
who,
great.
Who else has been brilliant to return?
Oh, everybody. I can't even remember. It's a hard thing for people to believe, but I kind of don't remember any of it.
Sure.
I don't watch the shows. I haven't seen these shows, so I don't know what it is about my personality that sort of just. I remember experiences and shooting and the people and being on set with people. I'm always hard pressed to come up with these kinds of answers. Favorite outfit, favorite scene. Who do you want to come back? I want all of them back. I love all the outfits. They're all my favorite episodes.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I'm terrible.
Did you never watch back the original series either?
In the beginning, I was asked to give notes, and then I just couldn't do it.
Do you ever watch yourself on screen in anything else either?
No.
I get that.
Not unless you. I think the Hocus Pocus, they really asked me to please stay in the theater and watch the movie. But had I had, druthers, and I haven't seen most of the Sex and the City episodes ever, and
You're missing out.
haven't
You
seen
are
this
missing
show
out.
either.
Yeah.
But Michael will make me watch one episode
Yeah.
per year of this show. He'll say, "Just please watch episode." And when I see it, I'll understand. I say,
Yeah.
you're right. I'm really glad I got to see this. Everybody else is great.
So did you never watch Big's death? You didn't. See, that's not fair because the rest of us had to go through it, and you
I
didn't,
had
you
to
didn't
do
get-
it all
that's
day
fair.
long.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
All
okay.
day
Yeah,
long
okay.
for 2 days,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think. It was awful. It was
I can
awful. And I couldn't talk about it
Yeah,
to
yeah,
anybody.
right, okay.
It was terrible.
Okay, well, but maybe
I'm
less
sorry.
Of a
I'm
shock. I don't know. It was.
I'm
it
sorry.
was a shock.
Sorry. Yeah.
I was saying to Michael that there's a moment in the first episode of the new season which kind of it harks back a bit to that episode where, because obviously Big died when you were at the recital, and then you're back in a theatre.
Right. Were
in
you,
this
were
first
you just
episode.
like,
yes, I was
what's
literally on
horrible
film,
thing
it's
is going to
like,
happen
yes.
while they're here?
I can-
That's the ballet recital
exactly
for her
that.
fellow? Okay,
Exactly
yes.
that. Nothing happened.
Nothing happened. Okay, good.
But
Good,
thanks.
good. Yes, yes.
I've got to ask you about the fashion in this
Sure.
in this series. How do you work? How do you evolve Carrie's look? How involved are you in that? I assume very. And kind of what was the plan fashion wise for this new era?
Well, we have extraordinary designers, as you know, Molly Rogers and Danny Santiago. Molly's been with us since day one of the original show. Huge, important part of that, and worked closely with Pat for years. And I also had worked with Molly on Miami Rhapsody, which is how Pat came into the show originally. But I've always worked with them really closely for years. Have learned a huge amount from those hours and hours and hundreds of hours spent doing it. But we talk about everything, the same way Michael and I talk about everything. Molly typically has a vision even before Michael starts sharing what the season's going to look like, even in very general terms, which he does before the writer's room even opens. And then Molly and I start talking very, very early. I like to be in prep super early because I'm there anyway doing other stuff, so I like to start months in advance. So for this season, I started my fittings in February of 2024. I was doing a play in London, so they came to London. They went through London for 2 days just pulling from vintage and consignment and people's houses and attics and basement and trunks and some contemporary stuff, off of shows and things. Curiously enough, all the pieces that I was most excited about happened to be Victorian and turn of the century, which is so weird because,
The book.
yes, and that was not by design. So once we saw the entirety of the options, and we talked to Michael because I said, this is a big deal for us to integrate this. Like, we're going to be seeing silhouettes that don't have place typically in contemporary life, And once Michael got excited about it, we started very carefully placing when all that, like, what is the first time we see that? What is the second time? How many per episode? When this story turns in this way, post this event, is that when this skirt, So we work really closely, but the leader of the pack is Molly and then Danny. Yeah.
When you're looking at fashion kind of in your everyday life, are you spotting things for Carrie? If you see a great show or no?
No, not typically. The months in advance, I will start seeing things and sending pictures to Molly, Danny, and Lachlan, who's another person on the team who's really important. And that goes like soup to nuts, a sock, a shoe, an earring, a pair of sunglasses, vintage pieces I'll send images of. But once the show is wrapped,
You've
like
got to separate.
it's, yeah.
I get that. Is there anything from your own wardrobe that also Carrie's worn? Rather than, I bet people ask you all the time if you nick from her wardrobe, but anything that she's worn
I
of
have
yours?
all of her wardrobe.
All of
It's
it?
all of it from the beginning, yeah. I have it in archive, yeah. It's the one thing that I've had in my contract for probably 30 plus years is that I keep all the clothes. Now, anything that's borrowed from a designer always goes back. Anything that's borrowed from a vintage house goes back. Oftentimes, a design house will say, keep it. I want it to be part of that archive. So I have everything. It's not in my personal house. It's kept, somewhere with proper temperature, moisture, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But even all the movies I've done, too.
That was in your contracts before Sex and the City?
Yeah. My lawyer, for some reason, and I don't know why, because I don't have, like, candles and white jelly beans and, like, all
But
this
this
stuff.
is your rider.
But
Yeah.
luckily, from early in my career, he said, you should keep your costumes. I bet it came from another client.
Probably, yeah.
Someone slightly senior to me
Yeah.
who was like, I should have had that
yeah,
dress.
it's so true. You've
Yeah.
benefited from
So I think
somebody
I
else.
have, Honeymoon in Vegas. I have all of that.
So you have, like, the Judith Lieber clutch that became everything.
Yeah.
Like, everything we've ever talked about. Sorry, my
If
head
it's
is
not
spinning with all-
borrowed,
Yeah, right, got you.
then, and I will say there are some design houses who have called on things years and years later because they've gotten so much better about keeping track of their own archives. I
Right.
think it felt like when McQueen passed, people started realizing that archives weren't complete. And so people were calling things back. And in that case, you send them.
Of course.
You send them back. But it's a pretty fulsome archive.
I mean, I literally just want to ask, like, and do you have this? And do you have that?
And that's
Yeah.
why her closet is always, you're seeing pieces from 1997
Because it didn't have to go back.
because we pull out every single thing from archive at the top of the fittings. And we start seeing where can we be wearing this and where is it in the closet and what scene in what show are we pulling something out from season 4. Like, it's that thoughtful.
Obsessed. I'm thinking about, like, the Oscar de la Renta dress that Petrovsky gives her. I mean, there's
Oh,
so
yeah.
many iconic, the
Yeah,
pink
that's
with the
it.
tears.
Oh
You
yeah, I
that?
have that. That's made the file dress.
Yeah, exactly.
I have that.
Oh my God, this is
And those
insane.
shoes,
Please put them in an
Manolos.
exhibition at some point. Like,
Yes,
let us all go and see them. Yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
We're nearly coming to time. So finally, what do you hope for Carrie long term? Where do you hope she goes next?
I hope for her the thing that I think she's been searching for and determined to feel since the pilot episode, which is home. Contentment, personal contentment, and feel confident that she understands the definition that applies to that desirous of feeling.
That's all we can all hope for, isn't it? Three. Here we go.
Here we go.
Can you tell me about where, can we call her LTW,
Yeah.
is now?
Kind of just taking off again, making this commitment to her, finishing her documentary. She's still married. She's still a mother and loving her kids and still friends with Charlotte and still has a killer closet.
I wanted to come to the closet, but like since you brought it up, I mean, it's so insane. Even just the first couple of episodes, again, like she's got such a strong, distinctive own style. How much are you a part of it?
Not one bit.
Oh, really?
I-
You let them go?
I just stand even in the part of the set that's my dressing room, and it's all real. Even though those clothes I'm dressed and I'm in my closet, just the props clothes, they're all everything fantastic. Fendi, Prada, Dior, Louis Vuitton, Hermes, everything. Balmain, it's all there. The shoes, the bags, those are the props in my closet. And for my fittings, it's a separate day. I can't do it while I'm shooting. It's so much. And they're curated for the emotion of the scene, the logistics of the movement of the scene, the narrative that Molly wants to tell. It's epic.
I don't think I'd realised that to the extent to which the costumes, the outfits are kind of reflective of the narrative and what's going on,
Yeah.
until I spoke to some of your co-stars, because Sarah Jessica was saying something very similar about how kind of the themes of her outfits are really woven into what's going on, and also the fiction book she's writing and all of these things. Can you see that in if you're not explicitly told, can you see, okay, today this outfit they've put me in is to make Lisa feel more powerful or more vulnerable or whatever it might be?
It's even subtler than that, because you don't want it to show what's going to happen, and you also don't want it to overpower the scene, which has been the magic of that show. Like, you see the fashion, but then you're brought into the emotional truth of Carrie or Miranda or Charlotte. And so it's a fine line between showing and allowing, or showing and supporting the scene. When LTW lost her baby in season 2, she was wearing a bright yellow and pink dress. But if you notice the shape, it was like an egg. And that's the magic of Molly and Danny. So
What have you worn in season 3 that you're like, I want that for my own wardrobe, that's going to come home with me?
all of it. I love everything, even in her kitchen. The coffee cups.
Yeah, it's true.
It's unreal. I would say the outfit I wore to support Herbert at the Red Rooster in Harlem. I was wearing yellow feather shoes, like it was normal to do that.
Sure.
At a campaign fundraiser.
Naturally.
Oh, there's a scene where we're all together at a bridal fashion show, and we are decked out, but yet everyone is distinctly themselves. It's fantastic.
I mean, that's what the canon of the entire show's history has always been so good at, that, right?
So good.
Can we talk about the fact, since you brought up that scene, that your husband finally sings? Because those of us who know him from Hamilton, we should have had him singing throughout this entire show. In fact, he sung, and I was like, finally, great.
I don't know if that was MPK not wanting to start that right out of the gate.
Perhaps.
But he is just a walking ball of fire and energy that it was inevitable that he was going to let him do that.
How do you relate to your character? I mean, you're coming into a show which is obviously, it's a new show, but then there are these existing characters who've got kind of these years of lore and, backstory that has played out on screen. So how do you bring yourself into your own character and come in feeling like you're able to give a fully fleshed character in the way that these women already are to the viewer? Does that make sense?
Like I said, the writing is so good that you could almost, if you can figure out the choreography with the clothes you're wearing, then energetically what's in the script on the page is just, it's straightforwardly, imperfectly perfect for the emotion of the character.
Where do you hope she goes? What do you want to see from her, from the rest of her journey? Obviously, you know what happens in this series, but kind of, do you have a vision in mind?
If we got a season 4.
There you go. Congratulations, of course.
If we got a season 4, I would love to do more with Herbert. LTW, see more of their dynamic.
Were you a fan of the original show? Do you ever go back to that as a kind of, origin text, I suppose, for it? Or do you see And Just Like That as its kind of very separate entity?
Yeah, I watch it sometimes, and I did watch it back when it first came out, but not at the beginning, because I joke with Sarita, we're friends in real life for over 20 years, and maybe 25. And I didn't have cable. I was a starving actress. But my daughter, that's what I wanted to tell you. My daughter is 20, and she came in the room the other day. She was like, she's home from college. She was like, Mom, this show is incredible. Oh my God. And they're showing stuff. I'm like, yeah, the 90s, that was the beginning.
But it's actually insane how modern it still feels, because it's almost like we've taken a step backwards, right? And everything you're seeing on Sex and the City still feels shocking and provocative and like important conversations, and it's somehow still so relevant, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I'm still here. I'm 50 something, 54, and I'm still living and loving and learning and questioning, and I don't have LTW's clothes, but my life is so spectacular. I can't imagine not being vital and present and joyful and sexy.
Yeah, damn right. I'm glad you threw that in. Talk to me about. I mean, I kind of hate asking about the idea of women in their 50s on screen because it's such a cliche and it kind of shouldn't be something that we talk about. But like somehow it still remains unusual, and it still is one of the only shows kind of bringing an authentic look at that. Right? Like, how do you kind of feel like you're the part of something that's pioneering, or does it just feel like a kind of another stage of life?
Such a great question. Unfortunately, it's still pioneering, but it's like the last when you're cleaning your oven and you've done it so well, and maybe it's one of those lovely French ovens, you know, and you're cleaning it slowly and cleaning it, and then you're almost done, you know, and like there's still a little crust. Like the people who are like, what is this? That's the last little bit of crust, but you don't even care. You're like, oh, I've done all of this. You aren't even like anything to worry about. No. Yeah, you catch up.
Yeah, just get on the dishcloth. Yeah. Just let the Dettol spray come through. Yeah, it makes so much sense. I mean, speaking of learning, what do you think the key themes are this year? It's in the same way that kind of Sex and the City, I suppose, did for women in their 30s. It's covering so many of the relevant, and just like that, it's covering so many of the relevant themes for women in their 50s. So kind of what's...
But let's talk about that for a second. Like, what is different? Miranda had a long-time relationship, then had a new lover, now has another lover. Carrie is still working out things with her ex. He has a new family. They still love each other. They're making a plan. Like, what about the cool plan when you were 27? Like, you're going abroad to and like, I'm going to be, let's try to be faithful, but if we can...
It's the same shit.
What's the same shit?
It's the same shit.
What's so different?
But I tell you what I think is different. It's the way that it's the responses, right? So at the end of the first episode of season 3, Carrie's walking. She's talking about exactly this relationship with Aidan, and she's with Sarita's character, and she's saying like, "Why can't I handle things the way you're handling this? Like, you are so cool, calm, and collected." And Carrie's like, okay, well, I wasn't in my 30s. You should have met me in my 30s. I was nothing like this. So to me, I mean, I know I look at women in their 50s, so many women in their 50s and 60s say, God, it's amazing to be this age because it's so liberating and you care so much less and everything. So I think it's about the way that the characters respond to those life events.
Yeah, but they're also cooler.
Yeah, well, yeah.
It's not like,
it's
not like you're old and it's resignation to
Certainly
the
not.
details of my life. It's like, yeah, okay, well, fuck it.
Yeah, and can you relate to that? Like, as you know, as your life has gone on,
because priorities and things, but you're still like, you might need a Cosmo at the end of the day. It doesn't stop. That's the thing. Life does not stop. And if you've chosen to do all these things, like be in a serious relationship or have a child or change your sexual identity, like the adventure just keeps going. I'm never bored. I wish I was bored.
Oh, you don't.
Like, I mean, you know, a little slice of boredom every now and then is nice. A nap.
Yeah, a nap. And that's nice.
Yeah.
It's true. Lisa's role within the show is her job in the show, her career is a documentary maker, and she's highlighting influential Black women. How important has that been as a storyline for you? Presumably that's an awesome kind of byproduct of the show, right?
It's what this woman would probably work on, because for her, it's important to acknowledge all the women that made your life actually possible. Not in a romantic, historic sort of way, but like actual. I was telling another reporter, you know, my parents were born in the 40s. You know, that was just the end of World War II and the beginning of real effective change for civil rights and drinking out of the same water fountain. Like, that's just my dad. It's not ancient Rome. And so I am very aware and full of gratitude for my life. I know that I don't take it for granted. And to have that voice in the writer's room, I didn't pitch those stories. But and when my kids were young, I taught them about the people that LTW is making a documentary about, you know, because it's not in their history books.
Yeah, I was going to ask how much were those women on your, because I mean, for anyone who hasn't seen it, they're supposedly under the radar women,
Yeah.
right? They're women who haven't had the,
Yeah, my kids know who Sojourner Truth is, and Shirley Chisholm, and Toni Morrison, and Fannie Lou Hamer. Just because it gives you courage, doesn't necessarily make you angry. You know, it makes you want to celebrate them and celebrate your life and fully live it out.
Yeah.
Who's stopping at 50 when people sacrifice their whole life for you to be free?
Damn right, yeah.
Let's go.
I love that. Is there anything else, any other stories that you'd like to highlight kind of in that capacity? Like how cool that you've been given this moment with this massive platform to be able to speak about these women. Is there anyone else on your radar that you'd be like, God, we need to work this person into a documentary somehow? Not Michelle Obama, who comes up in the beginning of season 3 as an option. Actually, that would be great. Can we get a cameo from her?
Oh.
Good.
So please, yes. There's so many. And this show, because it's an iconic New York show, a lot of people want to come. And MPK, I'm sure, has something in his secret box.
Lots up his sleeve, I'm sure. Thank you so much.
These were great questions.
It's good.
You're
Thanks.
my last person.
You're done. You're done.
Yeah.
You're free. There you go.
Yes.
Thank you so much. So lovely to meet you.
You
Thanks for having
too.
me. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.